What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be looking at PFL 2022 regular season number 2. Little disclaimer, this is more of just a prediction video, not a full card breakdown. I haven't really had the time to dig too deep into these guys, dig too deep into the fight, and just let you guys know a full breakdown. But if you want a full breakdown, I would recommend going to MMA Fight Club's channel, because he does super long breakdowns on fights. I am this week definitely just going to be going for more of a prediction based video on PFL. And moving up, we've got the first fight of the night, Alejandro Flores versus Salmon. My official prediction is the fight definitely probably will be going over 1.5 rounds, if that's even a prop. But I think that the fight will go the distance, and I think that we're going to see Alejandro Flores win a decision in here. I think he's the more natural featherweight. He's also going to be a bit taller, and I'm assuming he's going to have a reach advantage as well. 5'9" to the 5'6" Saba, who recently fought at 155 over a pretty decent opponent. Alejandro Flores has lost in Dana White's Contender Series to Rafael Alves, but Rafael Alves has submitted Makdir Casey pretty recently, and now that he beat Vyacheslav Borshev, the loss doesn't really look too bad on his record. He did recently win in PFL about 7 months ago over Carlton D10 III by split decision. Alejandro Flores by decision is my pick in here. I think a lot of people are predicting the fight to go the distance, and I agree. I'm going Flores by decision in this one here. Moving up the card, two guys that had a UFC run, two guys that are not in the UFC anymore, hence why they're fighting a PFL. We've got Shayman Moraes versus Boston Salmon. Boston Salmon 2 KO losses inside the octagon to Khalid Taha, and then he got knocked out by an up-and-coming Randy Costa. Since then, he did win over a guy that isn't so good by a illegal knee DQ. That's what it is, and then he did beat Du Guam Lee via corner stoppage, and I did pick Boston Salmon to win that fight there. And Shayman Moraes, on the other hand, also had a losing streak in the UFC. He lost to Sadiq Youssef, who's a top 15 top talent at the moment, to be fair. But then he did get knocked out by Andre Fili, which then got him sent to PFL, where he lost to Brendan Loughnane, who's also fighting on this card. But since then, he has won in the PFL. He beat Jesse Stern and Lazar by KO. So I'm going to be picking Shayman Moraes in this one. I think I'm going to be picking Shayman Moraes by KO. I still don't see Boston Salmon being super great, you know what I mean? I feel like the fight definitely probably will end by KO either way, but I feel like the guy that's going to get the win will be Shayman Moraes, and actually I'm going to be picking Shayman Moraes to win by KO over Boston Salmon in this one here, and so does the majority actually. Yeah, I'm going to be going with Shayman Moraes by KO. Clayton versus Adam Kyrish. This is my first underdog pick of the card. If he even still is an underdog, I'm going to be going with Adam Kyrish in this one here. I went online and I think that Adam Kyrish is actually only 28 years old, and if that's the case, then he's actually a very good up-and-coming prospect. He's 5-0. He's got really good Bellator experience. He recently beat Chad Johnson on the PFL Contender Series. I forgot what it's called, but he beat Chad Johnson on the PFL Contender Series. And he did beat a couple of decent levels of competition for a very inexperienced guy in Bellator. And he has had like prior fights before that as well. Young guy, up and coming in Adam Kyrish. I think he's got great kickboxing. He's got great power on the hands. Fighting a guy in Clayton who hasn't won for about 3 years now, and his last win was over Sam Alvey. And yeah, he lost to an undefeated guy. He whatever that is, and then lost to Jamal Jones by KO, who's also on this card. I'm going to be picking Adam Kyrish to win his PFL debut on this one here. I don't think Adam Kyrish is going to win the whole thing. I think that unfortunately for Adam, he probably will find a loss inside the PFL cage, but I'm going to be going with the Tapology voters. I'm picking Adam Kyrish by KO as well. And I don't know if he's still the underdog, but he's the underdog on Tapology, so I will be going with the underdog in Adam Kyrish here. Sculzov versus Sam K. I do like how PFL seems to kind of always hold on to a guy from the islands. They had Carl Sayumani Tafa, I believe, who was from Samoa last year. Now they've got Sam K from Tonga, and he's going to be fighting out of Australia, which is pretty exciting. Knowing guys that are from that sort of area, I do think that Sam K is probably going to pose a pretty decent kickboxing background with a lot of power in the hands. But I don't know if it's going to be good enough for Sculzov, because I do think that Sculzov is going to pose a pretty nasty ground and pound game, as his last win over Brandon Sales was by ground and pound. He beat Modoris by ground and pound, and then he beat Satoshi Ishii by decision. But his losses are to Ali Yasayev, who ended up winning the competition that year, and to Ante Delija, who I believe went to I think he went to the finals, the semi-finals that year. But anyway, moving on. Sam K also, he's more of a natural what's it called, light heavyweight. He's not a more natural heavyweight like Denis Goltsov. Denis Goltsov has been fighting at heavyweight for a while now, and Sam K has been fighting at light heavyweight. So I'm going to be picking Denis Goltsov to win this fight here, the more natural heavyweight by ground and pound TKO, probably in the first or second round here. Kohlbach filling in, I believe, on pretty short notice to fight Bubba Jenkins. I'm pretty sure this is a short notice fight, but I'm going to be going with Bubba Jenkins. Pretty decent amount of confidence in this one, though, to be fair. Bubba Jenkins actually a very good wrestler. He's actually quite a bit of a savage as well. Like, I do like Bubba Jenkins. I picked him to beat Bobby Moffett, but I picked Chris Wave to beat Bubba Jenkins in that one. But Bubba Jenkins, he's got a very good wrestling background. I feel like it's going to be a better wrestling background than Kohlbach has. And he does have a lot of wins that have aged pretty well, like a pretty good level of competition that he's fought. I'm going to be picking Bubba Jenkins to win this fight by a decision, I think, or maybe a ground and pound TKO. But Kohlbach, former UFC fighter, lost a split decision to Hakeem Dawodu, then lost to Sean Woodson, and he was coming up. But then since then he got cut and he went to XMMA, which is a pretty good regional promotion, to be fair. And he's been fighting pretty good opponents, including a fight over Marcus Brimage and a Carlton minor split decision win only 2 weeks ago. So yeah, this is definitely a short notice fight. He's fighting on 2 weeks notice, at least in 2 weeks notice for sure. But I'm going to be going Bubba Jenkins. I think he's going to have a very decent wrestling advantage. He's obviously been training the whole camp. Bubba Jenkins, a good wrestler. I feel like he's going to make the decision win here. This is a very good fight. I feel like this fight could go either way, and the odds do suggest that Chris Wade, Lance Palmer, is actually a former PFL champion, and Chris Wade, on the other hand, he fought for PFL in 2019, and he fought for PFL in 2021, but Lance Palmer is actually a former PFL champion back in 2019, where he won by decision to beat Alex Gilpin as a huge favourite to win the $1 million. So Lance Palmer's been in there with some of the best. Chris Wade's also a very good opponent as well. This fight could go either way. I really don't know who's going to win, but this is a very good fight to have on the first leg of the tournament, really. The guy that I'm going to be going with, though, I feel like I will be going with Chris Wade here. I feel like he's got more momentum behind him. He did lose to Mavli Kabuliev, who I think won last year, and that he has the win over Bubba Jenkins, who I said is very good. And yeah, I will be picking Chris Wade to win this one, but Lance Palmer does have championship experience, 5-round experience. He has won the tournament before, but he lost to Mavleed himself. He also lost to Bubba Jenkins, but he does have, as I said, the win over Alex Gilpin a couple of years ago to win the whole thing. But I'm going to be going with Chris Wade, probably by a decision on this one, but Palmer, if he's still the dog, is a very live underdog in my opinion. Renan Fahea versus Jamel Jones. I'm very confident in Renan Fahea's chances at winning this one. I feel like he probably would have made it into the playoffs if he was able to finish Carl Manitafa, but he wasn't able to finish the absolute savage that is Carl Manitafa. But he fought Fabricio Verdum, won that one by ground and pound, but it was very controversial because I think that Renan Fahea tapped, so Fabricio Verdum released the choke or whatever it was that he had him in, and then Renan Fahea was able to ground and pound him out. But yeah, that was a very controversial situation that happened there. But yeah, so he's got the loss to Brett Martin by DQ. Brett Martin has got like 3 wins by DQ, which is really weird. And he's got a win of Jared Vandera, who's barely in the UFC right now. But he's a savage, man. He's 6'8". He's got very good striking. He's got very good standoff. He knocked out Stuart Austin, who was the main event of this evening. And he's also got very good jiu-jitsu as well. He's got a very good ground game. He fights out of Team Nogueira. Very good ground game. Huge reach advantage. 85-inch reach. 6'8" height to Jamel Jones, who's 75-inch reach at only 6 foot compared to Renan Fahea. He's lost to Bruno Capollos by KO. But he does have a couple of good ground and pound wins, I guess, on his PFL record. Well, 1 win. He's got wrestling, but he's not going to beat Renan Fahea. Renan Fahea by submission or KO. I think Fahea is going to get the one. Job done inside the distance. Moving up, Mateusz Scheffel, who is the guy that actually lost on Dana White's Contender Series to Azamat Murzakanov, who I think is actually going to be fighting in the middleweight division. I'm hearing in the UFC, so probably not the best look for a guy fighting up at heavyweight now against Ante Delija, who seems to actually give a lot of guys problems. Ante Delija has been in there with some very good opponents prior to PFL. He did lose to Bruno Capollos by decision in the finals last year. Definitely worth noting that was the finals. But before that, he did beat Denis Goltsov by decision in a fight which I think I actually picked Denis Goltsov to win. And he knocked out Chandler Cole by ground and pound. But yeah, he's also lost to Bruno Capollos himself as well. But Yeah, so 2 losses to Ante Delija to Bruno Capollos, which is pretty crazy. But I'm going to be picking Ante Delija to win this one. I think he's going to win the fight inside the distance. Matteo Scheffel, he lost to a middleweight on Dana White's Contender Series. He's been recently fighting at light heavyweight. Yeah, I think Ante Delija by KO is a pretty confident pick for me here. Actually, no, maybe Ante Delija in general is a confident pick, but Ante Delija by KO is probably like my prop pick to have a look at. Brendan Lochen versus Ryoji Kudo. I feel like Brendan Lochen is definitely going to win this fight here. He's a pretty big favourite, and I feel like he's a pretty good favourite for good reason. No disrespect to Ryoji Kudo, but he is coming into the PFL off a loss by Kisuke Sasu, who I don't think is the level of competition that Brendan Loughnane is. Brendan Loughnane went to pretty far in the PFL last year. He beat Tyler Diamond by majority decision. He knocked out Shaman Moraes, who's fight on this card. He's got a lot of good wins in the PFL. He did lose to a split decision to Mavlid Kabuliev, who's 19-0 at the moment, which is pretty crazy. He made it all the way to the playoffs last year. I feel like Brendan Loughnane probably does have it in him to make it to the playoffs again. I think that we're going to see Brendan Loughnane win over Ryoji Kudo. A lot of people picking decision, but this is the PFL regular season. You get points for finishes. I feel like Brendan Loughnane will definitely be looking for a finish in this one. I think he might get it. I'm going to be going Brendan Loughnane by finish in this one here over Ryoji Kudo. And to finish off the night, I think this is a very easy pick. Stuart Austin, no disrespect to him, but he really isn't the greatest fighter in the world. He's got 7 losses on his record, but 6 of those 7 losses are by KO. Bruno Capollos, on the other hand, he's got 14 wins on his record. 13 of those wins are by KO. You see where I'm going here? Bruno Capollos of KO, I feel like is definitely like a prop lock. If a prop lock exists, Bruno Capollos of KO is pretty confident. He beat Ante Delija by decision in the finals last year, but prior to that though, he is knocking everyone out. He knocked out Jamal Jones, he knocked out Mo Doris, and he knocked out Ante Delija. But prior to that, though, his one loss recently is to Yuri Vahazka, who I think is about to become the UFC champion at 205 pounds. Bruno Capollos, he's found a pretty good home at heavyweight in the PFL. He's got power in the hands. He does have knockout power in the hands. I feel like we're going to see Bruno Capollos knock out in the first or second round. Stuart Austin does have a pretty good judo background, but I just don't think he's going to be able to handle the power of Capollos because Stuart Austin's chin just hasn't really shown to be that great. He got knocked out by Renan Faujar, and then he also got knocked out by a guy in the regional scene. He's been knocked out so many times before, knocked out 6 times in his 7 losses. Not the greatest look when you're fighting a power puncher, a guy with power in the hands, a guy with 13 KO wins out of his 14 wins, and Bruno Capollos. Bruno Capollos a KO is my pick here. I feel like he's a prop lock. I feel like Bruno Capollos by KO is a very confident pick for me, and I think Bruno Capollos will knock out Stuart Austin in the first 2 rounds.